The story opens with a vast alien fleet of the Krell Empire approaching Earth's solar system. For months, they had been sending demands across the galaxy: surrender or face destruction. Every civilized world had either submitted or been reduced to ash. Earth remained silent. Commander Vex of the Imperial War Fleet stood on the bridge of his massive dreadnought, studying the small blue planet through the viewscreen. His officers reported the same strange readings they had detected for weeks, no massive defense fleets, no planetary shields, no weapons platforms orbiting the world, just ... silence. "Sir, we're detecting minimal military presence," reported his tactical officer. "A few small orbital stations, some primitive spacecraft. Nothing that could threaten even our smallest destroyer." Vex frowned. Intelligence reports suggested this. Species called humans had some technology, but nothing compared to the Krell war machine that had conquered half the galaxy. Yet something felt wrong. In his 50 years of conquest, he had never encountered a world that simply ignored them. On Earth, in a bunker deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, General Kane watched the alien fleet through long-range sensors. Around him, military leaders from every nation sat in tense silence. The underground facility hummed with activity as technicians monitored countless screens. "How many ships?" Kane asked quietly. 1,200 confirmed, sir. "Possibly more behind the main fleet," replied Major Brooks, her voice steady despite the magnitude of the threat. Kane nodded slowly. The plan they had prepared for this moment was insane. Every military expert had called it impossible. But humanity had learned something important in their brief history among the stars. Sometimes the best defense was to appear defenseless. Dr. Wells, the elderly scientist who had helped design their true capabilities, leaned forward in his chair. "Sir, the deep space arrays are picking up their communications. They think we're primitive, helpless." "Good," Kane replied. "Let them think that." Above ground, cities continued their daily routines. People went to work, children attended school, and life proceeded normally. The media had been given carefully crafted stories about routine military exercises and satellite maintenance. Only a select few knew that humanity's survival hung in the balance. Back in space, Commander Vex grew impatient. "Send another transmission," he ordered. "Demand immediate surrender. If they continue to ignore us, we begin orbital bombardment in 6 hours." The message was broadcast on all frequencies, translated into the primitive languages detected from a planet's communications. Still, no response came from the small blue world. What the Krell could not detect were the massive underground complexes that had been built over the past 30 years. Since humanity's first contact with alien technology through crashed probes, they had been preparing. Not for negotiation or peaceful contact, but for war. Miles beneath Earth's surface, production facilities worked around the clock. Advanced manufacturing systems, reverse engineered from alien tech and improved by human ingenuity, created weapons the galaxy had never seen. Humanity had taken the best of alien science and added something the Krell had never encountered: human creativity and ruthless efficiency. "General." Kane stood and walked to the massive tactical display showing the alien fleet's positions. "Begin." "Phase 1, he commanded. Across the globe, hidden launch sites received the signal. What appeared to be routine communication satellites suddenly changed course, their true purpose revealed. Advanced stealth technology kept them invisible to Krell sensors as they moved into position. Commander Vex noticed the movement too late. "Sir, we're detecting some kind of debris field forming around the planet. Analysis suggests it's space junk." "Ignore it," Vex commanded. "These primitives probably can't even control their own satellites properly." The debris continued to spread, creating what appeared to be a loose ring of random objects around Earth. To the Krell, it looked like the chaotic mess of a species that had barely mastered spaceflight. In the command bunker, Dr. Wells smiled grimly as he watched the deployment. Network is in position, General. All nodes are active and synchronized. Kane nodded. The most advanced defensive grid ever conceived was now surrounding Earth, disguised as space junk. Each debris piece contained enough firepower to destroy a city, all connected through quantum communication links that the Krell couldn't detect or jam. How long until they begin their attack? Kane asked. Based on their standard procedures, 5 hours and 37 minutes. Major Brooks replied. Kane looked around the room at the faces of humanity's best military minds. They had one chance to show the galaxy that Earth was not another helpless world to be conquered. They had been quiet, not from fear, but because they were preparing to unleash something the Krell Empire had never faced, humanity's fury. We wait, Kane said softly. Let them make the first move. Asterisk, the Krell attack began exactly as predicted. Commander Vex, tired of waiting for a response that would never come, gave the order with cold efficiency. Begin orbital bombardment. Target their major population centers first. Massive energy beams lanced down from the alien dreadnoughts, each one capable of turning a mountain into glass. The first targets were New York, London, and Tokyo, cities that would break the spirit of any civilized world. But the beams never reached their target's as the deadly energy passed through Earth's debris field. Something impossible happened. The scattered pieces of apparent space junk suddenly blazed to life, creating a network of interconnected shields that absorbed and redirected the massive energy bursts harmlessly into space. On the Krell flagship, alarms blared across the bridge. Commander, our weapons are having no effect, shouted the tactical officer. The energy is being redirected somehow. Vex stared at the impossible sight. Scanned that debris field again. Full analysis. What they discovered made his blood run. Cold. Each piece of junk was actually an advanced defensive node connected through technology the Krell sensors couldn't even properly detect. The entire ring around the planet was one massive weapon system in the command bunker. General Kane watched the successful defense with grim satisfaction. They've taken the bait. Begin Phase 2. Dr. Wells activated the next sequence. Offensive grid coming online, General. All stealth missiles armed and ready. What the Krell had missed in their scans were the thousands of small objects that had been drifting toward their fleet for hours. Disguised as random asteroids and space debris, each one contained enough antimatter to crack a moon in half. The attack came from every direction at once. The asteroids suddenly changed course and accelerated to incredible speeds, their stealth systems dropping as they revealed their true nature. Advanced human missiles, each one guided by AI systems that had been studying Krell tactics for decades. Commander, Vex had less than 30 seconds to react. Evasive maneuvers, all ships defensive positions. But the Krell fleet had been designed for conquering helpless worlds, not fighting an enemy that could strike from any angle. The first wave of missiles tore through their outer defenses, destroying 20 ships in the opening seconds. The explosions lit up space like deadly fireworks. Each detonation sent shockwaves through the Krell formation, causing ships to collide and lose formation. The mighty fleet that had terrorized the galaxy was suddenly fighting for its life. Impossible, Vex roared. Intelligence said they were. Primitive. His science officer was frantically analyzing the attack. Sir, these weapons are using our own technology, but modified. They've somehow improved our designs. This was humanity's greatest strength, not just copying alien technology, but making it better. Human engineers had taken Krell weapons and added innovations the aliens had never considered. The result was devastating. Back on Earth, Major Brooks coordinated the battle from the command center. Second wave launching now, sir. Targeting their command ships. Kane nodded, watching as more debris around Earth revealed itself to be launch platforms. Hundreds of additional missiles streaked toward the confused alien fleet, each one following unpredictable flight paths that made them nearly impossible to intercept. The Krell tried to return fire, but their targeting systems couldn't lock onto the small, fast-moving human weapons. Their massive ship-to-ship cannons were useless against enemies they couldn't properly track. Commander Vex realized with horror that his fleet was being systematically destroyed by an enemy he had completely underestimated. Send a message to Imperial Command. Tell them Earth is not defenseless. We need reinforcements. But even their communications were being jammed. Dr. Wells had thought of everything. Sir, their quantum communicators are being blocked by interference patterns we're generating. They can't call for help. The battle raged for 2 hours. When the smoke cleared, the mighty Krell invasion fleet was reduced to scattered wreckage drifting through space. Only a handful of ships remained intact, and they were in full retreat. General Kane stood before the tactical display, looking at the debris field that had once been 1,200 alien warships. Around him, the command center was filled with quiet celebration. Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the surviving Krell ships, Major Brooks reported. Put it through, Kane replied. Commander Vex's voice crackled through the speakers, filled with rage and disbelief. This is not over, humans. The Empire will not forget this defeat. Kane picked up the communications device, his voice calm and steady. Tell your Empire this. Earth was never defenseless. We were simply choosing our moment, and if you come back, we'll be ready for you. The transmission ended, leaving silence in the command center. Humanity had won its first battle, but the war was just beginning. 3 days after the battle, General Kane stood in the same command bunker, but everything had changed. The screens now showed not just Earth, but tracking data from across the solar system. The few surviving Krell ships had fled toward the outer planets, but they weren't escaping. They were being hunted. Sir, the Jupiter station reports contact with the fleeing vessels, Major Brooks announced. They're requesting permission to engage. Kane nodded grimly. What the Krell didn't know was that humanity's preparations hadn't stopped at Earth. For 30 years, they had been building hidden bases throughout the solar system, each one designed to look like simple mining operations or research stations. Fleeing Krell ships, desperate to reach the edge of the system and jump to faster-than-light travel, suddenly found themselves under attack from what they thought were harmless human outposts. The mining station near Jupiter's moons revealed massive rail guns that had been disguised as ore processing equipment. Commander Vex, now aboard one of only 5 remaining ships, watched in horror as another of his vessels was destroyed by weapons that shouldn't exist. How many more surprises do these humans have? He demanded. His surviving officers had no answers. Every piece of intelligence about humanity had been wrong. The species they thought was barely capable of spaceflight had turned their entire solar system into a fortress. On Earth, Dr. Wells was coordinating with the outer system bases. General, we're getting reports from all stations. The enemy is trapped. They can't reach jump distance without passing through at least 3 more defensive zones. Kane studied the tactical display. Red dots showed the positions of the fleeing Krell ships, while blue indicators marked humanity's hidden weapons platforms. The aliens were like animals caught in a maze, with no way out. Sir, Major Brooks said, looking up from her console, we're detecting something else. Long-range sensors are picking up massive energy signatures at the edge of the system. It looks like reinforcements, Kane finished. How many? At least 3,000 ships, sir. It's a full Krell battle fleet. The room fell silent. There. Victory had been impressive, But 3,000 ships was more than they had prepared for. Even with all their hidden defenses, the numbers were overwhelming. Dr. Wells leaned forward in his chair. General, we always knew this was possible. That's why we prepared the final protocol. Kane's face went pale. The final protocol was something they had hoped never to use. It would save Earth, but the cost would be enormous. Not yet, Kane said firmly. We have other options first. He turned to the communication station. Open a channel to all human colonies, mining operations, and research stations throughout the galaxy. Send the activation code. Major Brooks looked confused. Sir, we don't have any off-world colonies. Kane smiled for the first time in days. Officially, we don't. Major, for the past 30 years, while the galaxy thought we were primitive and isolated, human merchant ships and exploration vessels have been establishing hidden bases on uninhabited worlds throughout Krell space. The truth was staggering. While the aliens had been conquering planets and building their empire, humans had been quietly spreading through the galaxy like a virus. Every world the Krell had dismissed as worthless. Every asteroid field they considered empty space. Every remote system they thought was uninhabited. Humans had been there, building, preparing, and waiting. Sir, we're receiving confirmations. Brooks reported, her voice filled with amazement. 73 hidden bases are reporting ready status. They've been inside Krell territory this entire time. Dr. Wells pulled up a galactic map. Suddenly, red dots appeared throughout Krell space, human bases that had been operating in secret for decades. We've been watching them, learning their weaknesses, and positioning ourselves for this moment. The approaching Krell reinforcement fleet had no idea they were flying into a trap that spanned half the galaxy. As they prepared to avenge their defeat at Earth, human bases throughout their own territory were powering up weapon systems and preparing to strike. Commander Vex, still trying to escape the solar system with his remaining ships, received a priority message from the incoming fleet. Admiral Cruix himself was leading the reinforcements, bringing enough firepower to turn Earth into a dead rock. Hold position, came the Admiral's command. We will arrive in 6 hours and show these primitives the true power of the Krell Empire. But as the massive fleet approached Earth's solar system, they began receiving reports from their own territory. Base after base was going silent. Entire sectors were reporting attacks from unknown human forces that seemed to appear from nowhere. General, Kane watched the reports flood in from across the galaxy. Gentlemen, he said to the room, Phase 3 has begun. It's time to show the Krell Empire what happens when you threaten humanity. Admiral Cruix stood on the bridge of his flagship, the massive dreadnought Empire's Wrath, as reports of disaster flooded in from across Krell space. What should have been a simple journey to crush a primitive world had become a nightmare of coordinated attacks. Sir, we've lost contact with the Vega sector, his communications officer reported. The last transmission mentioned human ships appearing from nowhere. And the mining colonies in the Rigel system? Cruix demanded. Gone, sir. All 17 facilities destroyed simultaneously. Cruix stared at the tactical display in disbelief. Red markers showed failing installations throughout the Empire. It was impossible. Humans were supposed to be confined to their single world, barely capable of interstellar travel. On Earth, General Kane coordinated the largest military operation in human history. The command center had expanded to fill 3 underground levels, with officers managing battles across dozens of star systems. Report from Alpha Base in the Centauri sector, Major Brooks announced. They've successfully destroyed the Krell shipyard. Estimated 40 vessels under construction were eliminated. Dr. Wells pulled up another section of the galactic map. Beta Base reports the communications hub, the Antares system, is offline. The Krell can no longer coordinate their southern fleets. Kane nodded with satisfaction. Every target had been carefully chosen over decades of observation. Humanity hadn't just been hiding bases. They had been studying Krell infrastructure, identifying critical weak points, and planning the perfect sequence of strikes to bring down an empire. The genius of the plan was its timing. All 73 hidden bases had struck within the same 6-hour window, creating chaos throughout Krell territory. Communication networks collapsed, supply lines were severed, and military coordination became impossible. Captain Ross, commanding the human base, hidden in the asteroid field near Proxima Centauri, watched through her view screen as Krell ships fled in panic from what they thought was empty space. Her base, disguised as a mining operation for 28 years, had just destroyed the sector's main supply depot. "Ma'am, we're receiving new target coordinates from Earth Command," her tactical officer reported. Ross smiled grimly. "What's next on the list?" "The fortress world of Keth Prime, Mom. They want us to take out their planetary defense grid." Keth Prime was supposed to be impregnable, a fortress world that controlled 3 star systems and housed over 50 million Krell soldiers. But like everything else about the Empire, it had a weakness humanity had discovered years ago. Meanwhile, Admiral Cruex's reinforcement fleet was still 6 hours from Earth, and every minute brought new reports of destruction. His empire was collapsing around him, and he was powerless to stop it. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the Imperial Palace on the homeworld," his communications officer said urgently. The image of Emperor Thrix appeared on the main screen, his usually composed features twisted with rage and fear. "Admiral, what is happening? Our entire outer rim is under attack. Your Majesty, the humans. They've been planning this. They have forces throughout our territory. Impossible." Thrix roared. "Our intelligence said they were primitive." Cruex had no answer. The intelligence had been wrong about everything. As they spoke, another report came in. The fortress world of Keth Prime had fallen. Its impregnable defenses had been destroyed by weapons fired from inside its own asteroid mining belt. On Earth, General Kane was addressing his command staff. "Phase 4 begins now. All bases are to switch from infrastructure targets to military targets. We're going to eliminate their ability to wage war." The hidden human bases had been stocked with enough weapons and supplies to fight for years. Each one was now a fortress behind enemy lines, striking at will and disappearing back into apparently empty space. Dr. Wells highlighted new targets on the map. "Sir, our intelligence indicates the Krell are trying to consolidate their remaining fleets at 3 rally points. If we can hit those ... Do it," Kane ordered. "End this quickly." The battle for the Krell rally points was brutal but swift. Human forces, using advanced stealth technology and superior tactics, struck all 3 locations simultaneously. The remaining Krell military forces were caught off guard and destroyed before they could organize a proper defense. "Admiral, Cruex received the news as his fleet finally entered Earth's solar system. His empire was gone. In less than 12 hours, humanity had destroyed a civilization that had ruled the galaxy for centuries." "Sir," his tactical officer said quietly, "we're detecting massive energy signatures around Earth. It appears they've been ... waiting for us." Cruex looked at the peaceful blue world ahead and realized the truth. This had never been about defending Earth. The humans had used his fleet as bait, drawing the Empire's attention while they systematically destroyed it from within. "All ships," he said with defeat in his voice, "prepare for what may be our final battle." The final battle never came the way Admiral Cruex expected. As his 3,000 ships approached Earth, they found themselves facing not just the planet's defenses, but the returning human fleets from across the galaxy. The hidden bases had completed their missions and were converging on Earth's solar system. General Kane stood in the command center, watching as human ships emerged from hyperspace around the Krell fleet. Ships that had been disguised as cargo. Haulers and exploration vessels for decades now revealed their true nature as advanced warships. "Sir, Admiral Cruix is requesting communication," Major Brooks reported. "Put him through," Kane replied. The alien admiral appeared on the main screen, his proud bearing now replaced with the weight of defeat. "General Kane, I assume?" "You assume correctly," Kane replied calmly. "My empire is gone. My worlds are burning. You have achieved what you set out to do," Cruix said, his voice hollow. "What are your terms?" Kane considered the question carefully. Humanity had spent 30 years preparing for this moment, but they had also spent that time learning about the galaxy's other species, the worlds the Krell had conquered, the civilizations they had enslaved. "Unconditional surrender of all Krell military forces," Kane began. "Immediate withdrawal from all occupied worlds, and full reparations to every species your empire has harmed." "And if we refuse?" Cruix asked, though they both knew he had no choice. Dr. Wells stepped forward. "Admiral, our analysis of your remaining forces indicates you have perhaps 200 ships left in the entire galaxy. We have over 5,000, and they're all equipped with technology superior to yours." The numbers were staggering. Wow. The galaxy had believed humanity was primitive. They had been building the most advanced space fleet in galactic history. Every exploration ship had been a prototype warship. Every mining operation had been a military base in disguise. Cruix looked at his tactical display, showing the human ships surrounding his fleet. "You planned this for decades." "We planned this from the moment we learned your empire existed," Kane replied. "We knew that eventually you would come for Earth, so we made sure that when you did, we would be ready not just to defend ourselves, but to free every world under your control." The surrender was broadcast across the galaxy within hours. The mighty Krell Empire, which had dominated the stars for over 3 centuries, had fallen to a species most civilizations had never heard of. But humanity's victory was more than military. It was psychological. Word spread quickly that the primitive humans had not only defeated the Krell, but had been secretly operating throughout the galaxy for decades. Every species that had submitted to Krell rule began to wonder what else they had been wrong about. The former Krell homeworld, now occupied by human peacekeeping forces, Captain Ross oversaw the liberation of the labor camps. Millions of enslaved beings from dozens of species were freed, many seeing the sky for the first time in generations. "Ma'am," her communications officer called out, "we're receiving transmission requests from over 40 different species. They're asking about joining humanity's alliance." Ross smiled. This was the part of the plan Dr. Wells had been most excited about. Humanity hadn't just planned to defeat the Krell. They had planned to replace their empire with something better. Back on Earth, General Kane addressed the first Galactic Council meeting in the same bunker where he had planned the war. Representatives from liberated worlds filled the chamber, with more joining by communication link every day. "The age of conquest is over," Kane declared. "Humanity offers not domination, but partnership. We will share our technology, our knowledge, and our protection with any world that chooses to join us freely." The response was overwhelming. Species after species stepped forward to join what would become known as the Terran Federation. They offered not just their allegiance, but their own knowledge and resources to build something the galaxy had never seen. A true alliance of equals. Dr. Wells, now elderly but still sharp, worked with alien scientists to combine humanities innovations with the knowledge of dozens of species. The result was a technological renaissance that advanced galactic civilization by centuries in just a few years. Years later, children across the galaxy would learn the story of how humanity had pretended to be weak while secretly becoming the strongest force in the stars. They learned how the species that the Krell had dismissed as primitive had used that dismissal to bring down an empire and free the galaxy dot and in the command bunker beneath Earth's mountains. Now converted to a museum, visitors could see the plaque that Kane had placed there. They mistook our quiet for surrender. They learned too late that humanity's greatest strength has always been our ability to plan, to adapt, and to wait for exactly the right moment to strike. The galaxy would never underestimate humanity again. Asterisk.